Hi everyone, I'm Zacharias Cates, product lead at Foreo, and I want to show you something we've been working on. Most teams I talk to use Confluence as the backbone of how they operate. Docs, processes, runbooks, wikis, everything. And it works really well until you realize that over time, sensitive data has quietly found its way in there. A social security number in an HR doc, credentials pasted into a runbook, customer details buried in a support note. It's not intentional, it just happens. And once it's there, it's really hard to know what you're dealing with. That's the problem that Aegis was built to solve. It sits natively inside Confluence, runs on Atlassian, and gives your security and compliance teams a real operational tool. It scans your content for exposed secrets and PII, services findings by severity, and gives you a proper workflow to investigate, assign ownership, and track remediation. There's also an Access Explorer that answers the questions Confluence sometimes can't. Who can actually read this page, accounting for every group, space permission, and inherited restrictions? It even includes applications permissions levels within your space. Let me go ahead and show you how it works. Right now we're in the dashboard area. You can navigate here via the app section and then click the Aegis Compliance Suite. I'm in the staging area, so you'll see the staging item here. For you, it will not be there. This is kind of where you'll mostly live. Right now, I'm an administrator, as you can see in the top right, which gives me a higher level of permissions than a normal user would have. You can set all these settings within the admin center, which I'll show you here shortly. In the dashboard, this is where all the active findings are, active cases for those findings, if you decided to make it, SLA breaches if there were any, critical findings. And then here we have our recent findings dash, recent cases. Each of these are clickable to take you to that individual item. Export options in the bottom right-hand corner. Apologies for my face there. If we go to the scanning area, we have the option to do a full scan of the whole space. I've actually already went ahead and done a 491,000 page scan of our instance. I had 391 findings. You can see all these items down here as a scan history. It'll show you kind of the runtime. It took about 40 minutes. It's a medium to large instance, so that's pretty fair. And then some individual space ones that I've been able to scan. You have the option of doing a full scan, incremental scan, which is pages modified since the last scan. That way they'll take into account items that might have been updated. Space scan, so if you just want to do just one scan, you can go in here, you can search by name, or you can just go in there and just add one particular one, run the scan, and you'll see a little scan dash that will pop up here. You'll see your time lapse in the top right, the page that it's doing, and then the last scan never, and then you'll get all of your information here. That space only had about 3 pages, as you can tell here. New findings are still within the last 24 hours. That's why you see extra. Now, you can go in here and you can see the information of that run, whether it was successful or not, how many spaces it did, etc. I want to go ahead and see all the active detectors. You can click here. And as you can tell, it's a pretty large list. We've kind of went ahead and default turned it all on, so it's just kind of easier for all of you to see. You can filter here by enabled, disabled, or all. You can read what each of these mean and turn them on and turn them off by clicking. You can also further configure these in the admin panel area. This is just kind of with pretty much every feature turned on, as you will. Everybody might have their own separate setups, but this is kind of how ours is set up right now. So what do you select there? These are your scanner findings area. These are all selectable and will take you to those areas. Scan history, recent detections, and the severity, and explains a little bit how it works down here at the bottom. Let's go to the findings area. These are all the findings that were found. My face is covering it down there, but you can see that it's a paginated page. Let's go to one of these particular ones. Let's say this high severity one. It's a finding. There is a feature here that if you want to, you can turn on in the admin panel. That'll allow you to integrate with Jira. So if you have a Jira instance, and instead of creating a case in Confluence, let's say you wanted just to create a ticket, that option will be available to turn on the admin center. You click it, it'll auto-generate a ticket with all this information in there. I'll go ahead and show you that shortly. But for now, let's take this, Social Security. The page that was scanned, it was found on is here. It's clickable, the space, the time, and all of that information, as well as the audit trail of the finding being updated by me, which would I rate the scan. I can change the status of it to triage, resolved, dismissed, create a case. Let's go ahead and create one. Okay, there's a case linked for it. I can make a comment, triaged, and I can make that comment. And all that information stored. And for that particular one here, as you can see, there's a case tied to it. Let's go ahead and get that case. And as you can see, it's assigned to me because I was the one who created the case. I can request an exception for it. I can do a remediation, close, exception. There's an export item, audit trail of who did it. Here's the link back to the finding as well. So as much information as we can provide you folks. Here's the Access Explorer we'll move to next. The Access Explorer gives you more information about your exposure of a space. There's kind of a little bit of a difference between the scanning and detecting. This kind of gives you more of, if you have, for example, a cloud instance and you had a space that was public and you wanted to see the exposure score that space has, whether you have external users' emails stored there instead of your own company's. You can go here and kind of see that information. So let's do one right quick. I'm going to go to a testing space, which is one of my spaces. We'll analyze it. Have an exposure score of 16. All these values are selectable and configurable in the admin area. So for me, if I really cared about anonymous access, I can actually raise the severity score. The higher the score number, the more exposed it is. I can go ahead and change these values to what makes sense for my organization. If I want to set this space classification, you can do it here, or you can do it in the admin area as well, which I'll show you. As of right now, there's not one set, but let's say I set it to public. I update it. What you'll notice is now we have a sensitivity level of public, which gives it a +5, which is a 100% score value add. It's weighted by percentage. In the admin area, you can set it to be higher or lower to how you feel. Here's a space permission summary. So in here, I can see, does anybody have anonymous access? That's actually turned off. Users with access, just myself. Apps and plugins that have access. It'll actually show you the apps and plugins that have what level of access they have to this particular space. And as you can tell, all these products I have installed have this levels of access. Groups, broad groups, external. Let's say I wanted to see Zechariah's Kate's. I can check my access level for this space, and it'll give you a bit of a summary of what level I have access and what I can do on that space, which is a bit of helpful. Here's some caveats that are down here for visibility. Now let's go ahead and move on to some others. If you want to set an alert, if you want an alert that kicks off if there is a critical finding at any given time, you can create that here. So let's go ahead and let's make one. Let's add a rule. We'll call it Zech rule. Severity is critical. And I'm going to say if there is a new critical finding, cooldown 60 minutes, I can create that rule. And so that rule is created, it's available, and as soon as that hits, then it will create a alert for me up here that I can take a look at. And it's cooldown to 60 minutes for that particular item. You could set the values there yourself as well. And then lastly, we have an audit log. This audit log stores all of the items that are done within the dashboard area. So there was a case created, who did it, case created, user role changed. I actually did this earlier. Content scan that I ran, it'll store all of the scans that were done. There was a content scan of 23,000, I believe the time that it was, the pages, and the findings that were created for it. Now let's navigate to the admin area. Let's go to general administration. Let's go scroll down to our apps section. We'll go to Aegis Compliance Suite. In here, we'll start off with the permissions area. So different roles give you different levels of access to the pages that we were just on. So in here, let's explain the roles. You can click the explain roles and it'll explain what each role does and what it gives you. So you kind of have more information. For example, if you're an admin, if you want to trigger a scan and configure detectors, you have to be an admin. And these check marks kind of show that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Let's go ahead and add Josh Garner. We'll add Josh as an approver. We'll assign it to him. And he's been added. And now that add has been logged. So you have that on the audit trail. And I've made Josh a approver. So now Josh has the ability to do all of these check marks, but just not as an admin. So you can do an approve. He can classify content. He can export, open cases, but he cannot do any of these items down here. All right. All right, let's move on to classifications. This is where we were talking about earlier, where the exposure score. I can set a particular space to have a classification. You can do it here. You can do it on the other side. It's kind of up to you. If I wanted to go in here, let's do this one, and we'll set it to confidential, set that classification. It's now stored here. And the weights, as you can see here, are there. Detectors. These are all the detectors that are currently available. We have about 221 secrets and then 4 enabled PII ones. You can change their severity here to whatever you would like. Some people want to keep them the same as default. You can go ahead and change it to what matters for your organization. You can turn them on and off. If you also would like to, you can make your own custom detector. If you have some trouble with regex and trying to understand what they are, you can go to here, the regex 101, and kind of gives you an explanation how it works. We've added a little bit of content here. We also have docs outside of just these videos that kind of give you more of an explanation. Here's an ability to filter and search by the search bar here. Scoring in SLA. For those exposure weights we talked about earlier, where you could go in and you can see the weight or the exposure of a public space or set those items, you can actually set those values here. So if you really care about anonymous access level, you can raise this pretty high, and that will matter more when it goes to the exposure score of a space or of a page. All of these are configurable by the organization, and it kind of just depends per company. That's so we wanted to give everybody the option to set them themselves. SLA policy. This is for the critical findings, high, medium, low. You can set them whatever you would like. And once they're saved, they're saved. That's how they'll hit and trigger. So those are configurable here. Access Explorer. Here's that same similar item that we were talking about with the exposure score. So we can use enable user expansion. There's a hard cap of users. If you have thousands and tens of thousands of users, you can limit this. That way you're not, getting so overloaded with information on your exposure score area. And this also allows large group expansion. Integrations. This is kind of where you can turn on the Jira part that we talked about earlier. Let's say I wanted to enable Jira. The first thing you really would have to do on installation is you have to make sure that Jira is connected to this app. You can do that via, let's see here. So if I'm in the connected app section where I've installed the application, I can go to view app details. I can go to my connections. And as you can see, Jira is connected. They should naturally be connected on installation, but if they're not and you don't want it, you can disconnect it. You could turn it on here. I have it automatically connected. Let's go back. Let's turn it on here. And I want to go ahead and add it to my project key FF. It pulls it, and let's set them to tasks, and I'm okay with these critical settings. Let's do a test connection. We're good. We'll save. Nice. And let's go back to our app here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how it looks creating a ticket. So you can go to here. As you can see here now, there's a create Jira ticket. Instead of creating a case, you have the option to create a Jira ticket. I click on that Jira ticket creation, and the ticket has been created for this issue, and that is the ticket number. I believe it should link us directly there. Go ahead and link a new tab. And let's go to our ticket, and here you go. Here's the ticket created. Here is the finding. You have the space, you have the escalations logs, you also have the Aegis findings tied to here, the severity as well, that was set is going to medium, but it's kind of how that works. If you decide you want to go this direction instead of actually using the case management tool, you can, and you can use both, whatever you would like. We wanted to give everybody the option of doing that. So that's kind of how that works. As far as retention goes, this is the retention of the data. So whatever you would like to set here, it applies. You can run that retention immediately. You could save the policy change and whatever you want to do there. Under system, here's all the checks that have happened. An SLA check, if it happens, success. It does a check every so often, and all of these are stored here for your view. So it's kind of a rundown of how the system works. It's pretty robust. We're going to be adding more features as we go. We have some items ready to go for V2 here shortly, but for now, this is our current setup. If you have any questions, there's going to be a support link provided on this page, as well as documentations that we have in writing. Thank you. Have a good one.